Hi, everyone. Welcome into Attacking Third Tuesday's episode. We're diving deep into Kansas City Current, a little bit of their history, what is to come this year with Kansas City, and we're playing a game a la our producer, Mark. He always makes it fun here for us, alongside Jen Beattie and Sandra Herrera. I'm Lisa Carlin. Jen, Sandra, my gals, what is up? I was with y'all Sunday night, and now we're back together. Jen, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Gang's back together. I can't wait. I'm excited for this episode, to be fair. All things KC. Let's go.
I love it. I'm here for it. I love continuity. So the fact that we were hanging together on Sunday, now we're doing this again on Tuesday. I'm like, let's go. Let's get it. Let's have some fun.
I know, me too, Sandra, especially because we hadn't worked with Jen in a while because of Euros, and she was just busy this summer. Now we get to do it back to back, and we can't do it, of course, without all the people joining us live on YouTube. Thanks, y'all. We see you in the chat. We appreciate it. Like this video, subscribe, and join the combo if you're not already in there, because we get good comments, we get good moments. So if you're a Kansas City Current fan, drop some KC excitement in the chat for us, because that is what we're talking about today. Of course, if you're listening as a pod or watching on Galazzo Network, thanks. Hey, hi, hello. It is great to have you with us. Let's dive in and talk some Kansas City Current, because it is a team that after this past weekend has separated themselves by 12 points at the top of the NWSL standings, ahead of Orlando Pride because of the win, a shutout win that Kansas City Current earned at the weekend. And of course, the blockbuster move that started the weekend, their acquisition of 2024 U.S. Soccer Young Female Player of the Year forward Ally Sentnor. She is now added to an already stacked and attackingly potent team of Kansas City. It begs the question, are Kansas City Current officially a super team? It potentially. Now, I did do some definition searching of a super team. It means an elite team, exponentially strong due to acquisition of multiple star level players. So it's not just that the whole group is big, but it's the fact that there are stars on this team, meaning that a super team is likely to have success and win championships. They're almost dubbed as a favorite. So Jen, is Kansas City Current 2025 officially a super team?
Wait, first of all, I love that you Googled it to see.
Obviously.
I was really glad you did that, because I was like, are they?
Shout
I'm
out
gonna
to
say,
Google AI, I guess.
for me, I need trophies in the cabinet. I need back-to-back wins. I think, and when I think of a super team, I think of the NC Courage of the NWSL, or the women's national team that have gone out, lifted trophies back to back. Do they have the potential? Absolutely. Look, when you're talking about superstar players that are signing and performing, their stats this season are off the charts. The way that they're winning games is so amazing to watch. So 100%. Do they have the potential to be a super team? Yes, for sure. They're going in the right direction. But for me, I need trophies. I need back-to-back wins. It's the hardest thing to win a league once, but to then do it back-to-back, that for me is what makes us super team.
What about a team like Orlando Pride, who won the Shield and the championship last year? They didn't go back-to-back years. I mean, this year is TBD on 2025 with Orlando, but does winning the Shield and the championship back in the same season qualify as a super team?
Like a great team, yeah. Incredible players, 100%. Super team for me is like teams that do it back-to-back, like a Chelsea in the WSL, 6 seasons back-to-back wins. That's a super team's best of the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking anything away from being a great team of the Pride and championship, Shield, everything. But if you get to super team status, for me, that's like top of the top. And for me, I've always said in football, the hardest thing is to lift a trophy, but to do it season after season is even harder. To have that development, to have the right recruitment every single year, to build and build and build, that's super team status for me. They're a great team.
You know what? I'm getting like a different kind of energy. It's like, all right, are we talking like super team versus dynasty? Like, okay? If you looked up a definition for super team, Lisa, then what's the definition for a dynasty in sports? Right? Like, does the dynasty mean, to Jen's point, the trophies, the hardware? Like, what does the cabinet look like? How many medals are it? Like, versus just like really good good players, who are competing to the furthest extent that they can compete.
I would say that the difference between a super team and then a dynasty is that a dynasty is almost like what Jen is saying, over a sustained period of time, like Chelsea winning the Super League, 6 straight years. That's a
That's a
dynasty
dynasty.
because it's dominant over an extended period, where a super team is maybe a little bit more contained to 1 or 2 seasons, but they've won everything in those 2 seasons.
So what are you saying then, Lise? Are you saying they are a super team?
I'm saying that they can be a super team.
Yeah, right. So you're agreeing with me.
I'm saying that they can be a super team. Whereas, I would say North Carolina had a bit of a dynasty in the NWSL for 3 seasons to win Shield and championship.
All right. I'm playing devil's advocate here. We can't have 3 of us kind of agreeing you got to see the trophy. But you know what? The truth is, I don't disagree with that. You got to have some hardware here. But I will say this, for maybe it's the writer in me or the analyst in my brain, that they're a super team in the sense that if they don't go out there and win, it's a failed experiment. I think there was some of this narrative around Gotham just, recently, where they had a massive free agency swing and they got these 4 marquee players. They marketed them as the class of 26, for that free agent class, because they all signed on contracts through 26, and it was Crystal Dunn and Rosa Bell and Emily Sonnet and Tierna Davidson. And now Dunn is gone overseas with Paris Saint-Germain, and they did not win a title, unfortunately, even though they had these super team caliber type of players. And despite whatever narrative they wanted to shake off or say that they weren't, I'm sorry, by casual sports fan definition, you can't have 4 national team players on your team and not be considered a super team in some capacity. And now the other part of that is that the experiment was a failure is a bummer to if you're the one making the moves or if you're the season ticket holder watching the games. But that's an example for me of a super team gone wrong, unfortunately. And I think if we're looking at Kansas City at this moment, adding an Ally Sentnor into the equation, it's presenting some super team energy. And if they don't get something this year, yes, it'll be a disappointment.
I could not agree more on that. I think if you're signing big players and playing like the way you are, and even mid-season signing a player like Ally Sentnor, you have to be lifting trophies at the end of the season or it's a failure. So I totally agree with that.
So I think there's just too many good players to, if you don't call them a super team right now at this point in the season, then what do you call them? Just a really good team? Come on.
So you're saying that they are a super team, Sandra?
Yes, they are. Right now, at this point in the season, they are the super team of the NWSL.
To me, a super team is like that Gotham team that signed already big superstars. I would say that Kansas City has developed the superstars that we know now on this team. Michelle Cooper, right? Or would you consider her a superstar across the league? What about Bia? What about, I think Shawinga, maybe you would say right now at this point, but otherwise it's a group of really talented players that are put in the best position to be super together. It's like a superhero group that comes together, but their powers only work when they're all on the pitch at the same time. Can they do it individually?
So they're like the X-Men. They didn't discover their powers till later and didn't know what to go with it or do with it. Like Vlatko Andonovski's now Professor X. Like, what's going on
now,
here?
Exactly. How much does Vlatko Andonovski play into this super team?
I think he plays a huge role in it. I think that's part of the super team mentality. I think that's part of the super team highlights and characteristics. It's not. It always is going to be the NWL with the players and who they are and what they do on that pitch. But if you also got someone on the sideline that is a bit of that X factor as well, that lends to the lore of a super team. Vlatko Andonovski's whole return to Kansas City. It was promoted as such. It was a welcome home. The Angie and Chris Long and the ownership groups were like, we're welcoming home Kansas City's son, and like he's returned and he's got so much history and he's gonna lead us back to the promised land. I mean, we have lore within the Kansas City lore, and Vlatko Andonovski is part of that. I think he's absolutely a part of this super team equation. You guys might not want to call him a super team, but I think right now in 2025, when we look at that table and we look at how teams are performing right now, Kansas City is the super team of this 2025 regular season.
I think behind any top team, top player, you still have to have a manager that knows tactically how to adapt, what recruitment, what players to bring in. You talked about development, Lisa, and what this team has done and got the best out of their players. Yes, credit goes to the players, but you have to have a manager behind the scenes that's managing players who aren't playing, having those different conversations. That is a player I used to value so much tactically, how you change going into each game. So to have someone that's had that level of experience for me is the best thing. Of course, young managers bring them through, but for me to have for him to have that international level, bring that back to club, I think he knows the team inside out. He's been there before for so many years and brought back in. He understands the culture of what the team's trying to do, the style of play it wants to go. He's huge. So I think credit to him as well.
Yeah,
Lisa, I have another question because you brought him up. So I'm curious. Now. This is kind of the Kansas City show, so not to keep bringing Orlando back into the mix. But you made a really good point about Orlando in 1 year, essentially getting the double, getting the shield, getting the championship. Does that take them from super team to dynasty because it's just one season of titles? If they come into 2025 and they get that, let's just say they do get the Challenge Cup, does that maybe bring in some of that dynasty conversation for you? They get
for
that
Orlando?
Yeah.
No, they would have to win the Shield and the championship again in 2025.
All right.
And then it becomes a dynasty. But I would say that Orlando was a super team last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because they had superstars on their rosters as individuals.
Because at multiple points during the 2024 season, they were the best team in the league. They were the super team of 2024.
Because of superstar players, because they had Marta. She is the GOAT of all GOATs. And I think you have to have multiple superstars in order to reach those levels.
Is it time to bring in like what legacy means and what you have to do to build a legacy? Or is that too much?
Just get the dictionary and find all the
Marta on the phone real quick.
Well, some of it does have to do with the history of the team, and we are going to talk about that in this show, but it also has to do with the future of the team. And I think that sometimes hindsight is 2020, and we could look back in 5 years and say, okay, that Kansas City of 2025 was a super team ultimately because of the players they had. But you also have to create a little bit of longevity in that. So if we look ahead to next year in 2026 and the roster that Vlatko Andonovski has to sustain in order to maintain being a super team, who are those players that must still be on this roster that will make it be a super team that could potentially not be here anymore? Temwa Shawinga is signed through, I don't even know, the next several years. So she'll be with this group. But on some of these maybe free agents that are going to be untethered at the end of 2025, Sandra, who still has to be here in order to maintain the super team status for Kansas City in 26?
You know what? I need Kansas City Current to announce Lola Bonta already. I look at this list of free agents, and there's a number of veteran players on it, you know, from Kristen Hamilton, right? I would even include Rocky Rodriguez in the mix because she at this point has been a stalwart of NWSL and has been a key player in different midfields across the league. But when you look at some of these more experienced players on the list, the free agent list at the end of 2025, I see Lola Bonta on there, and I'm just like, how's that not the first player that we saw announced with a new contract or an extension for this squad? I don't know what else she has to do or what else she has to prove. I'm sure those things are maybe ongoing at this moment at the time of this episode. And knowing us, we're talking about it, and there will be an announcement right after we wrap the show. So who knows? But I think for me that is always how it works. But I think for me, when I look at that list of players, I want to see Lola Lavanta back in the mix, and I think she is one of those definitive Kansas City players that you point at and say that is the definition of our super team right there.
Yeah, I would say a phrase that when looking at this free agent list, there are some legacy players for Kansas City that need to be re-signed in order to maintain a super team status. Players that have been not only in the league, but in Kansas City that are really staples of the foundation of what women's soccer is in Kansas City. And Lola Bonta is at the top of that list. I also would put Haley Mace on this list, a player that has been with Kansas City and plays consistently. Like, there's something about Kristen Hamilton being a legacy Kansas City player, but she really hasn't seen the time on the pitch that makes her part of the future going forward. And I would not be surprised if we don't see her re-signed. But someone like Labonta and Haley Mace, those are legacy players that if Kansas City wants to maintain the status that they are right now, they have to continue to bring those players back to bring the history of this team and this club into the future with players like Shawinga and Bia and Claire Hutton, right? Some of these younger players that maybe don't know as much about the history of the club.
Yeah. Did you mention Bia there?
I think she's a newer player that doesn't know as much about the history.
Yeah, for me, she's a must though going forward.
Yeah, I think so too.
She's like one of the top players, 5 goals, 1 assist already this season. Like, okay, injuries will always happen. That's football, is part of it. I don't think that can be a negative when you're looking at someone as a player. So for me, she's a must when you're thinking about, okay, next generation of what you want to achieve. And then for me, like, okay, Kayla Sharples, that's already been done, I think. But look, she came in mid-season. There's she gets goals as well. Such a threat at set piece. To come in halfway through a season and still impress, for me, that was huge. And she's doing it. She's at the core of the team. For me, in her prime, man, she's playing week in, week out, and performing really, really well. So she's huge.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that and just say, make a bold statement, maybe, and just say that I think that Kayla Sharples for Kansas City Current, I've heard whispers of like MVP caliber type of season.
Wow.
Kayla Sharples and who she is and what she's doing for that squad specifically this year.
Sandra, if a defender wins MVP, I will give you something great. I don't know.
I think there's a reason why I said whispers. I think it's an incredibly long shot. I think, every team does like end of year like awards, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe she walks away with that one for club. But if we had to do like a power rankings of like MVP, runners right now, I think I'd have her in mind for sure.
Not that I wouldn't love to see a defender be named MVP. It's never going to happen.
That's part of the super team energy, though. The fact that we're even here toying or tinkering with that,
I really hope it happens now, just because big up the defenders, like for sure. And you know what? She's one of the best humans off the pitch as well. I will say, had pleasure to play with her for only 6 months, but even in a short space of time, in the locker room, on the pitch, she's like top human, such a team player. So I can see why she's making such a great impression over there.
Yeah, she has really stabilized so much of what Kansas City's done and made an immediate impact. But I would not say Kayla Sharples is a superstar. I think she is an incredible player, and she could be in MVP conversations, Defender of the Year conversations. But I think there's a difference between a superstar player that will make up a super team versus a group of really good players that are all bought in on the same page and are put in the right positions to succeed. Someone in our chat is talking about Hoosiers. Hoosiers is an amazing movie. What an incredible basketball story. That was not a super team. That was like a really good team that was brought together by circumstances. Guys, we got to get our definitions
bonkers. Bonkers to me that we got you, a former defender, saying that like Kayla Sharples isn't a superstar. To me, that just means that we're not doing enough talking about defenders. So me and Beattie got to make up the conversation here. We got to keep talking about more defense and more defenders on the show.
Yeah, man. I'll do that all day.
Right on.
I love it.
Center back. Let's go.
All right, more love for the
Mitzi gets it.
defenders. It's happening here on Attacking Third. You heard it today, August 5th. More love for the defenders. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to go back in the history books. Take a look at KC before they were the current. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third on YouTube. We love our polls. So we polled the audience, the people listening and watching, asking, are the KC Current a super team? 60% of you said yes. 30% said they're almost there. And 10% said no. So it's not black and white by any means as to if Kansas City is a super team. But to be a super team, there are a lot of different definitions. You guys could throw whatever else you want out there. But so much of it does have to do with what came prior to this team. And Kansas City Current, before they were the current, there was FC Kansas City in the NWSL. It was actually one of the 8 founding clubs in the National Women's Soccer League that started in 2013, and they played all the way through 2027, and they won back-to-back championships in 2014 and 2015. They were part of this little bit of a dynasty, you could say, under Vlatko Andonovski, who was the head coach the entire time FCKC existed in the NWSL from 2013 to 2017. But when we think, Sandra, about the team that was in 2014 and 2015 that won back-to-back NWSL championships, what were some defining characteristics about the club or the roster in those years that you remember that stuck out so well?
Oh my goodness. Kansas City was that team that you never wanted to see your team go up against, whether you were a season ticket holder, supporter, someone in the press box. There's countless gritty grinder type of draws, I think, between the Chicago games and the Kansas City games that I saw back in those days. But they just absolutely were a well-organized, well-coached, well-functioning team. And so much of that had to do with the roster that they had built, put together to compete, and absolute stunners as well. They could have a match where maybe one week it was one of those gritty grinder type of games where it's like a narrow victory, and then the following week it was they piled on some goals and made you look kind of foolish. I can recall their run in the 2015 season and in the playoffs, is sort of kind of maybe not having the form that folks thought that they should have had coming off of a World Cup, with so many players who were impactful in that, from an Amy Rodriguez or Lauren Holiday, Heather O'Reilly. The legs are heavy in a World Cup year in those early days of NWSL, and so maybe the form kind of matched that. But here they were in the semifinal, away on the road to Chicago, and dunking on them. It was a complete blowout. It was an absolute Lauren Holiday and Amy Rodriguez masterclass clinic.
Sounds like you still have nightmares, Sandra.
I mean, they're dreams, honestly. It was one of those things where it's just like, this is a beatdown so incredible. You're just honored to be there, quite frankly. And that's absolutely who they were and what they meant to the league. There was always this layer of respect whenever you knew Kansas City was in town or you were going to cover them. They weren't the team that was going to come in there and be kind of goated or flashy or loud. They weren't going to be the ones that had all of those kind of shiny bells and whistles. I think at the time, in that era, in that first decade of NWSL, it went the way of Portland Thorns, right? Or when you think about titles, it goes the way of North Carolina. And in between that, I think there was almost this layer of disrespect of not maybe having Kansas City in that conversation about with all the things that they had achieved at that point. And then maybe that comes with the fact with how they ended, because another huge component of that first decade of NWSL was a lot of figuring things out. And unfortunately, in a lot of figuring things out, there were not appropriate infrastructures in place. We have heard endless stories and have read endless reports about how things like HR departments were difficult for players to find, and how they had to kind of carry up this mantle of making sure that a league was sustainable, right? And those are all sort of scare tactics, abuse tactics, to kind of put that on the player and make sure that they are the ones kind of keeping things up. But as far as on the pitch, you want to talk about a team that did so much with so little. FC Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell a story about my good friend Kim Little when we're talking about history of this team, right? I'll never forget. Me and Kim go back. We grew up together in Scotland, right? Played at Arsenal together as kids. And then she went off and obviously did her thing at Seattle Reign, MVP of the year. But I'll never forget this narrative of like, okay, we won the Shield, but we just couldn't get it over the line. And it was, who did they fall short with? Kansas City. And I will say, right, and she won't mind me saying this, Kim doesn't think that highly about a lot of other players. She like is quite a high standard. But one player, she always used to say, Lauren Chaney, Lauren Holiday. He was like one of the best midfielders she's ever played against. And that was, she built it. She was such a player on international level, and obviously won back-to-back 2014 and 2015 with FC Kansas City. But that's the one player that Kim always used to say to me, she was so hard to play against when out here in the NWSL or back in those days. But that's what they built. They created history back to back. That's we spoke about it. It's the hardest thing to win once. Do it back to back. That's a top team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're kind of the history they built. And look, I do think when you bring it forward to now, that's the kind of culture and history you want to bring forward for Kansas City Current, because they'll look back at that, especially Vlatko. He's the consistent. He's the one that's been there, done it with this team, and wants to bring it to the current team now. So I think when you have a manager leading it like that, it's so important. But I'll never forget Kim coming here and winning the Shield, but not getting the championship because of, in her own words, Lauren Chaney. So yeah.
Yeah, there's one player that stopped Seattle, right? I mean, that's what it feels like at times when you're playing up against someone like Lauren Chaney in both 14 and 15. And that's a fun little story about Kim Little. I love that. But this is a team in Kansas City that had some troubles towards the end of their reign, because in November of 2017, Kansas City ceased operations, FCKC, and then they were transferred to Utah Royals. Everything, the players, the rosters, the draft picks were transferred before then coming back as a reiteration in the NWSL as the team we now know as Kansas City Current. And there was this big talk when Kansas City Current was coming into the NWSL just a few years ago of how much of their history were they going to bring with them, the championships, was it going to be a new team, and trying to build on the history of what is a really big and influential soccer city in Kansas City, especially with Vlatko Andonovski, who did have a little bit of a super team and a dynasty, if you will, with 2014 and 2015, but there was also some bad history that comes into it. And when you're building a team, you need to remember the history that you had as a club in the city that had success. Remember the bad things as well so that you can learn and get better from them. But it's not easy to start a brand new club and then make it to an NWSL playoff in 2022. It's different and it's very difficult, Jen.
Yeah, no, I think, look, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a new project. I've always found that so interesting coming across to the NWSL and it being relatively new teams and clubs, right? Especially an expansion team, Bay FC. That was my experience. But I'll never forget, from my experience signing for Man City Women, who only created their team in 2014, right? I signed in 2015. And I will say the finances didn't necessarily go to the players. For me, it went to the resources that were arguably more important. So the stadium, like what Current are doing, the locker rooms, the kind of travel plans, hotels, making the performance resources really important. That for me was more sustainable long term. But I totally agree with what you're saying. They won a League Cup in their opening season, and I think that's what projected them onto what happened next. But the biggest thing, we always had the Premier League men to fall back on in terms of culture and what was already set. But the best thing to what we're saying to create legacies is to lift trophies, and we ended up winning the league 2016, FA Cup, League Cup after that. So we won things to kind of keep building that. But it was pressure. You're thinking, right, we're the ones being brought in to build this. So I think you have that massive responsibility as leaders and as young players and as staff and everyone. You're in charge of building that. That's what I loved being back at BFC last year, of creating that culture from the ground up. So I think it's a huge responsibility. I think who you recruit is so important. Again, I'll speak about Vlatko. I think you have to have a top experienced manager that has been in so many different environments and cultures and high performance cultures and know what that takes to go and win games. But I think what they're building but they do have history to go back on, I think, within the city, with what you're saying, the culture, the history of what the city means, and being there and the stadium being built and building this brand to move forward is so important.
Even the Kansas City we have now in 2025, or let's say 2024, where they build CPKC Stadium, it is a teal wall that hits you of color and fans and excitement right on the Missouri River. That wasn't even part of the vision that was public in 2021 when this club came in, and they still had to deal with coaching turnover and some issues in their front office that they had to deal with, players not being put in the best positions and field availability that they were playing on. I mean, there were still hurdles that this club had to jump over and try to get past when they relaunched in 2021. And now when you look at the makeup of the CBA, I mean, this is like a much deeper conversation, but players having autonomy and free agency to go wherever they want, it has forced clubs to be more desirable, whether it's because of the free agency or because of investment in it, thanks to Chris and Angie Long, the owners coming in, and Brittany Mahomes coming in as the ownership to say, let's build a destination where not only American players want to be, but international players say, hey, I want to be at Kansas City Current, not because it's a giant metropolitan city or because they've won a lot of trophies, but they have the structure and the system and the investment that makes me want to go there. I mean, even Lo Labonta last week on our Live with Lo was talking about the off season and how much her team gets together. And she was like, and maybe it is because there's not as much to do in Kansas City as there is maybe for a Gotham that is just outside of Manhattan and New York City, where there are a million things going on all the time. Kansas City has to have a draw that is a little bit different than cities in LA, Portland, New York City that are going to offer something different, but they also have the investment there. But it wasn't always there from 2021 up until 2025. And this club has worked hard to draw in these international players, Dabinia being one of the biggest free signings that went to this club most recently, just 2 years ago.
I think that's obviously that's the most obvious, biggest key difference and factor for Kansas City Current compared to FC Kansas City, because these are two different teams. There are different ownerships groups. There's different players on them. There's different cultures around them. I mean, I remember FC Kansas City's departure just came, for all of these, rumored toxic environments for front office and players. It was across the board, and kind of absentee ownership, like kind of almost uninterested, like very much like hobbyist type of ownership, or just like you want to say you own a soccer team, so you just went ahead and got yourself a women's soccer team. And that's not the type of, we could see now, that's not the type of investment teams need to, if they want to be successful in NWSL. And so to sort of have, Angie and Chris Long, Mahomes, kind of come in at the midnight hour, because FC Kansas City got relocated to Utah, who also came in at the midnight hour to say, yeah, we'll take a team, only for them to fold a few years later. And Kansas City, a new ownership group in Kansas City kind of comes into the rescue. And history's there to, to make sure that it's not repeated, right? And so like even with Kansas City Current and their very tough inaugural season, what was it, like a high school baseball field they were playing on, not a good season.
Players wanted out. They
Players
didn't
wanted
want
out, and now there was already the beginnings of like a potential just bad team culture or environment around that. And so to talk about this franchise in 2025 compared to their beginning in 2021, it's already kind of night and day a bit in terms of what's in front of them. A purpose-built stadium, an incredible roster, their facilities, and I would also include in that just the general engagement of fans. You go like, yes, for the players who are saying like, maybe we hang out a lot because there's maybe not a ton to do this particular week in Kansas City. But if you are someone in Kansas City, guess what is there for you to do? You can go to a women's soccer game in Kansas City. And like, that's a cool thing to provide for that community. That's also something that this team has provided for the city. It is this very entertaining, fun product.
And the city is very bought in. The city is very bought into what the Current are doing.
100%. So it's interesting to just sort of like see the night and day kind of stuff. And I appreciate how Kansas City Current have tried to pay honor to some of what was FC Kansas City, but not full on adopt that. Because I think if you are going to try to like reinvent a market that was once a failed place, I mean, Boston's a good example of this, as they make their return in 26. You have to start fresh. There is no ties to that old stuff. You really don't want it. But I do appreciate that there's some in a larger scope of things, like getting Lauren Holiday out to games, like, paying honor to some of these legends of the past. Like doing it,
that's a touch.
Andonovski on the sideline. Like there's very specific things that you can point out and say, this is kind of cool, but it's not like they said, yeah, we're just going to roll out and be FC Kansas City. And I love that they are the Current.
Mm-hmm. They've done a very intentional job of rebranding and what they've done. Even the slow burn of ultimately getting a crest and a name of Kansas City Current didn't come when the team dropped in 2021. It started as Kansas City NWSL with a pretty bland logo, but they said, we want to get this right. We're going to play just 1 year as this kind of half-branded team, and then we'll go from there. And man, did they come out strong with that teal branding in the end. We got Teal Man, we got the full teal kits happening, and of course we have our Kansas City Current logo that features the current of the Missouri River going down. We're taking a look at the crest and the logo right now with the KC and the 2 stars. Those 2 stars not because of championships that this team has won, but I believe, Sandra, correct me if I'm wrong, they're in reference to the previous championships that the Current has won. Is that right?
No, I thought these are in reference to like the rivers.
Oh, okay. So I don't know anything.
Gracious. Someone will let us know in the chat.
But that logo versus
in the chat, and someone will email us and be like, "Hey, great show, but sorry, you messed this part
wrong." Don't listen to me then. Okay, that logo versus the old FCKC logo. Which one did we like better? Do you remember the old one, Sandra? It's blue.
Yes, band ponytails. There it is. We see it live on the show right now. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I like the black and blue color scheme. That I enjoy. I do enjoy that a lot. Nothing like a gritty grinder team whose colors are black and blue, right? But I'm very glad that we are pivoting away in this next era of like ponytail bands. Get it out of here. I don't want to see it.
I love the modern color. The modern teal man stands out, and the red. I love it. I can't wait to see what the 2 stars are about, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm all for the modern.
The 2 stars. I looked it up. The 2 stars are for the 2 states, Kansas and Missouri.
There you go.
I got too much Chicago brain. I'm like, it's the river. It's like, no, that's a Chicago flag thing.
The 2 for that to be the 2 championships, I would have had something to say about that.
Okay. Yeah, I would have been like, boo. I would have been like, give me the rebrand. No, that makes sense. I like the two state shout out for Missouri and Kansas City. I got a better follow up for this one. You have FC Kansas City versus Kansas City Current. Both teams in their prime. Who's taking it?
Wow, that's a good one.
They both have Lola Bonta.
I was going to say, what
have
Vlatko? Both. They both have Vlatko.
Yeah, they both have Low. They both have Vlatko, and they're all healthy and they're all in their prime. Who's
I'm going to give it to FC Kansas City because that coach Vlatko and Andonovski will know Temwa Shawinga's one or two weaknesses, or like how to potentially slow her down, get her off her game. And the nitty-gritty of FC Kansas City back in their dominance of 2014, 2015 would just be a little more tough and rumble against the 2025 current.
I like it. I like it.
I'm going current.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, I think their form this season, and we said it themselves. FC, you know, they didn't finish top. They were struggling coming to form. You were saying that in the 2015 league. Okay, they went on going to win the final. So I'm gonna say consistent performances for me. The current are showing up in not like the old days.
It's a tough one for me, and I'm the one that presented the question. But I'm gonna say I'm gonna give just the slightest of edges to FC Kansas City because, and you know what did it for me? If Kim Little's out here to this day in 2025 saying that team was a wrecking ball, I'm gonna give that edge. You know, Kim Little was the tipping point for me, so I'm gonna say FC Kansas City.
Oh, that was a fun one. I like that question, Sandra. If you like these questions and these fun games, guys, stick around because we're doing a little Kansas City quiz next here on Attacking Third. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Attacking Third. We are wrapping up this KC Current show with a little A3 KC quiz. We are each going to ask each other questions. They all are multiple choice, but they all have to do with Kansas City. That is the theme. So chat, we need your help. It's multiple choice. So if you think you know the answer, drop whether it's A, B, C, or D, drop the answer that you think it is in the chat so you can help us out. Any questions, Jen, Sandra?
I think I got it. Go with God, everybody.
I'm ready.
We'll see how we do. If they ask about the stars on the current crest, now we know.
No, that's not one of the questions.
Thank goodness, that's not one of them. Okay, Sandra, I am going to ask you the first question. Who was Kansas City Current's final first round draft pick? Was it A, Ellie Wheeler, B, Elise Bennett, C, Michelle Cooper, or D, Izzy Rodriguez?
The last draft pick?
The final first round draft pick.
It's what are the names? I'm sorry. It's Wheeler,
Bennett, Cooper, Rodriguez.
It's not Izzy Rodriguez. It's not Elise Bennett.
So you have
definitely
Wheeler.
Not Michelle Cooper. So I'm gonna go with Ellie Wheeler.
No. Wrong.
That's wrong too. They're all wrong. No, hold on. What are the names again?
Wheeler, Bennett, Cooper, Rodriguez.
Izzy Rodriguez?
Izzy Rodriguez.
Nah, Ellie Wheeler also just
bed, but I think you already got it wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
The answer is C, Michelle Cooper.
Wait, for Kansas City Current?
Kansas City Current's final.
Oh, I'm thinking like FC Kansas City.
Kansas City Current's final first round draft pick.
What a great first round draft pick to be.
Seriously,
the last one.
Michelle Cooper, and look how well she's done. Wow, that one was really difficult.
Yeah,
this is gonna be hard. Okay, Sandra, right. Ask a question.
So I've got questions, but mine are going to Jen. All right, get ready, bud. The first one is, before they landed on the name KC Current, which of the following names was not considered?
Right.
Dandelions, Kansas City Majesty, Monarchs, Fountain City KC. Which of those were not considered?
As in like Kansas Dandelions or just Dandelions?
It's spelled Dandy, Dandy, and then Lions as in Lions. There's a lot of Lions in this league,
Yeah.
so it's hard to believe.
One more time.
All right, it's Dandelions, Kansas City Majesty, Monarchs, or Fountain City KC.
I don't know if
Chad
I
is torn. Chad is saying Monarchs and
help me out.
And
Dandelion was not considered. Says E. Charles Sneed, and I trust them.
All right, we trust E. Charles Sneed, and thank goodness,
Yes.
because it is Dandelions was not considered a name for KC Curran.
E. Charles Sneed, thank you.
Could you imagine? We could have been doing this segment talking about the Kansas City Majesty or the Fountain City KC.
They were all a little bit.
It would have been a play on FCKC if they went with Fountain City. I would have hated that. Actually.
It would, yeah.
I would have hated it so much. Yeah. I'm so glad that was not chosen.
All right, Lisa, your turn.
Oh man.
Which one of these is not a nickname for the city of Kansas City? The City of Fountains, Heart of America, Gateway to the West, or Paris of the Plains?
Oh, okay. So it is the Fountain of Cities, I believe, or the City of Fountains.
Fountain of Cities.
City of Fountains. What was B? What was the second one you said?
The Heart of America.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I'm going to say yes. And then Gateway to the Midwest, and then the Paris of the Plains.
Yeah.
I feel like Paris of the Plains is kind of cute, and I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to say it's not the Gateway to the Midwest.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding.
Let's go.
So Paris of the Plains is not a nickname for KC?
Which one of these is not a nickname?
Oh, that's too bad.
Gateway
Paris
to the
of the
West
Plains is.
Paris of the Plains is.
I love that.
Gateway to the West is not.
Wow. Okay. I love this. All right, Sandra, are you ready for your second question?
Hell no. Let's go.
How many times has Vlatko Andonovski ever been carded as coach of both FC Kansas City and KC Current? So over his entire tenure in Kansas City, how many times has Vlatko Andonovski ever been carded? Is it 1, 2, 3, or he's never been carded as coach of either team?
I'm going to dunk on Mark so hard after this show.
These are really hard.
Yeah, I get all the hard ones, and you guys get Paris of the Plains and Dandelions. I'm gonna say, because I have hope, I want Vlatko Andonovski to have been carded at least one time. So I'm gonna say 1.
No, he has never been carded.
It's 0. He's too
nice.
calm.
He's too cold.
That one was tricky.
I really was hoping that there was one that just I couldn't remember, but no.
He's been fined, but not carded.
Yes, he has said some things in the past about officiating. I do remember that. I've sat in on those press conferences.
All right, Sandra, your turn.
Okay, second one for Jen. All right. Who was the first international signing for the Kansas City Current in 2020 ahead of the team's debut in 2021? So first international signing for KC Current ever. Was it A, Mariana Larroquette? Was it B, Rachel Corsi? Was it C, Katie Bowen? Or was it D, Jessica Silva?
I think Corsi.
You're going B, Corsi, final answer?
Yeah.
That would have been sick. And I feel like if Vlatko was coaching that team in 2021, that would have been the correct answer. But that is incorrect. I'm sorry. The first international signing for the KC Current ahead of their team debut was Argentinian international Mariana Larroquette.
Yeah, Larroquette. And Jess Silva came way later.
Yeah, she did.
She came way later. Wow, that one was hard.
Yeah. Thank you.
Made up for the Dandelions.
Yeah, the softball that Mark gave you.
Well, I was like, I've just talked about my friends this entire podcast, but I was like,
you're like Rachel Corsi, boy.
Yeah. Right, Lisa, on to you. Okay. You could take the lead here, actually.
Yeah.
We all have 1, or Sandra?
No, I've had 0.
Okay, who scored the first goal ever in FC Kansas City history, which also happens to be the first ever goal scored in NWSL history?
I'm so mad you got this question and not me. I'm so mad.
Lauren Cheney, Christy Mewis, Casey Lloyd, Renee Kuyler.
Hello. Somebody Renee.
Yeah, who's Renee?
Renee Kuyler.
So I'm gonna guess it's not Renee. I feel like I would know that. Sorry, Renee, if it is you. I feel like I should know this. I'm gonna guess Lauren Cheney. Sandra, look at
It
that.
actually was,
smile.
it was Renee Kuyler.
A Mexican international was the first player to ever score for Kansas City
That's cool.
and the first goal ever in NWSL.
Oh, look at her.
Wow, that's
She's
cool.
annoyed. Sandra's
Okay,
annoyed she didn't have that one.
Really
Anyway, that's my
sorry.
point. I'm taking it. So
Yeah.
we've all got 1 point now because I stole Lisa's question.
Yeah.
Okay, last round, right? So I'm getting the last question, Jen here.
Yeah. This is
All
your
right.
last one, last round.
Good luck with
let's-
this one, buddy, because it's got nothing to do with soccer. Which of the following?
Wait, Sandra, I go first for you.
Oh, for me?
Yeah,
All right. Well,
you get
got
your
time
final
to think.
one. You ready?
All right.
Temwa Shawinga is the current all-time leading goal scorer for the Kansas City Current. But who was the all-time leading goal scorer for FC Kansas City? Was it A, Shea Groom, B, Amy Rodriguez, C, Lauren Holiday, or D, Sydney LaRue?
These are all such good ones too. There's a part of me that wants to be like Shea Groom, but I don't know if she got enough time with the team. So I'm just gonna say like Amy Rodriguez.
Correct.
Yeah.
Good job. I was like, please don't overthink this.
One and a half points for me. Yes, I'll take it. All right. Now, the non-soccer Kansas City question for Jen is as follows: which of the following was invented in the great place of Kansas City? A, the vacuum cleaner. B, the bumper sticker. C, the gas station. Or D, the movie camera.
These are all such Midwest things.
Wow.
It's
Yes.
so good.
Midwest.
Yes, my favorite place.
One more time.
Which of the following was invented in Kansas City? The vacuum cleaner, the bumper sticker, the gas station, or the movie camera?
The gas station.
Gas station's invented in Kansas City.
Yeah.
God bless you, my dearest Scottish mate.
The bumper? The
You know
bumper.
what?
The
Yes,
bumper.
I'm gonna give that to you. I'm gonna give you a
Okay.
follow-up. It is the bumper sticker.
I thought
I'm like,
about it.
stick with
I
the
don't know why
vehicle.
it's a gas station, to be honest.
She just guessed.
Yeah, I did. And then I was like, my gut said bumper. So I've got it.
Yes. All right. I'm giving
Can
it
I
to
still
you.
have it?
The bumper sticker. Yes. I didn't
Okay.
lock it in, so bumper
Wait.
sticker.
Okay, great. Lisa, this is actually quite a fun one.
Okay.
What celebrity is not from Kansas City?
Ooh.
Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, Ellie Kemper, or Wiz Khalifa? Also, this is to tie, by the way.
Whoa. I have no
You have
idea.
to-
Yeah, because you've got two, BD.
No.
I've only got 1.5.
I have absolutely no idea. Chat, I need some help here. Can you say
what
again?
were the names again?
Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, Ellie Kemper, or Wiz Khalifa?
So 3 of them are from Kansas City and one is not, and I'm finding the one that is not.
Correct.
The
I have a
chat
feeling-
saying Paul Rudd. For some reason, it shocks me if Wiz Khalifa is from Kansas City, which means that it could be right.
I know a couple who are, and so I'm like, I don't want to say anything to give any.
Yeah.
Jason Sudeikis is. I want to say Wiz Khalifa is as well because that's just hilarious. The chat saying Paul Rudd. I'm gonna
Right.
go.
Lock
I'm
it
gonna
in.
go Paul Rudd.
Wiz Khalifa is not from Kansas City.
I was like, it's so random. It has to be right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen, congratulations. You're
Winner,
our
winner, winner.
Oh, who would have known? Who would have guessed? The Scot wins the quiz on Kansas
Let's
City.
go. That's right. Scotland, Midwest, united.
Together. Yeah, together.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Jen. Who
Thank
would
you.
have thought that you would win our Kansas City quiz? But you
I love
did.
it.
I did
Congratulations.
need a follow-up, I will say. I did need a second guess on one of them. You guys were really generous, but thank you. appreciate it.
We want you to keep coming back, Jen. Come on back.
Yeah, I get it.
We definitely have a bone to pick with Mark, our producer, for coming up with these insane questions.
Wrap the show.
Amazing. We've got to go talk to Mark. But thanks everyone so much for hanging with us. This was really fun. We appreciate it. Leave us a rating and review, 5 stars, comments if you liked the show, if you liked the quiz, everything all about it. Attacking Third is going to be back on Thursday, August 7th, right here on YouTube. It's going to be myself along with Jordan Angeli and Darian Jenkins. We're going to preview week 15 in the NWSL, talk all about the things to come at the weekend. So we'll see you then. That's Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube, and of course anywhere you get your pods. Thanks so much everyone for hanging with us today. For Jen, Sandra, and Mark, and Lisa, this was Attacking Third.